Good morning and welcome to Office Hours. This is the show where we answer your technical questions as they relate to media and event production. You can ask those questions 7 days a week. You can use Mukana, our Q&A system. You can go to officehours.global/join to learn how to do that and chat with everybody and vote on those questions. This is our focus on audio day, so questions do tend to stack up on this day, so your votes do count. Of course, you can also use askofficehours.global. That's the simplest way if you don't want to log in to ask questions. So let's just dive in right into those questions. Bill, what's our first one?
First one comes from Douglas Carmichael this morning, and Douglas wonders, Microsoft released Office 2024 yesterday. What does everybody prefer for Office licensing, perpetual or subscription? And there's a link to the announcement there.
Jesse.
When a company asks for a cut of our business every month for the entire duration of that business's existence, we consider that equity, and we're very, very, very stingy with giving out equity.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, because of my unique situation, I occasionally have to use Microsoft Office for a few things. But the problem is I have, maybe 100 computers, but I'm the only one that uses them. So having a license that is tied to a specific computer is problematic for me. So I'm using Office 2003 because it is portable between different machines. I purchased it back in 2003, and I can put it on each of my machines and make sure that Office is there when I need it on whichever machine I happen to be using at this time. The new version, Office 2024, I was looking at the information about it, and I didn't see the word AI mentioned anywhere. So maybe they have not incorporated AI into it, but I think it's under the hood there. The pricing is $149 for Office Home 2024, which includes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and that's for one PC. That's my problem. And then there's Office Home and Business for 2024. It's $249, $100 more for Home and Business. I don't know what the differences are. Maybe it includes Outlook and a couple of other things. But, not sure what's new in each one of them. A few new graphing tools, I think, in Excel, but no mention of AI.
Alex?
I use Apple Pages. So that's my subscription to Microsoft Office. I haven't had Microsoft Office on my computer for maybe 15 years.
Mickey?
Yeah, for something as relatively affordable and such a utility such as Office, we're happy paying the subscription for it. I think our subscription comes out to, I think we have 10 licenses, and it comes out a lot more affordable in the long run compared to buying the licenses outright, perpetual licenses. It's so affordable that it's something that we just don't have to think of anymore. Oh, new versions out, you have to upgrade. No, it's just there. We don't want to have to think about it.
Yeah, that's an important note. The thing is, I fought this for years with perpetual versus subscription, and people always think perpetual licensing is cheaper, and I understand they like the feeling that they own something, but I've always found that there's always a gotcha with perpetual licenses. I've subscribed to many Waves plugins over the years, and I find that you always have to re-up your support plan. You're always going to pay for it later. So, you pay for the initial cost of the product, and then there's always some kind of support plan that you have to pay for to continue to get updates. So with the subscription stuff, like with Waves, I've switched over to a subscription and I get more value out of it. And I'm actually saving a little bit of money. So I don't know if that's the same with Microsoft. I think companies should always offer both options. It's nice to have a bit of choice, but clearly the whole industry wants subscription because they make more recurring revenue and it looks better for them. Mickey, you wanted to come back in?
Yeah, I was just about to mention that because we spoke about this a couple months ago, Alexander, that even with Waves, we have like full licenses of the largest wave package, Mercury, and we have quite a good number of them. And earlier this year, I switched to I forget what they call it, the Wave subscription, where you get everything because every single year we have to do the Waves update plan renewal to keep the Mercury packages up to date. So we just shifted over to getting a whole bunch of the subscriptions, it comes out very, very close in cost. It comes with more plugins than Mercury does, and it's something that keeps us up to date with all the latest versions of their tools.
Bill?
For shops and operations, I understand this entirely, and that may be the best way for you to manage your money and your also capacity and access to the tools. I just want to remind everybody that if you do get a lot of subscriptions, it might make sense to think about a subscription manager of some form, or at least something that alerts you when subscriptions are coming up. They don't normally tell you anything. What they want you to do is get into the subscription and just stay there for the rest of your career, which is perfectly sensible from their business model point of view. But I found little things that I subscribed to, it was taking $4.95 out of my account or $9.95 that I had completely forgotten about it. And I looked back at a couple of those some years back and I went, I've been paying this for 3 years and I've never touched the software after that. That will not happen with a big fundamental piece, but I'm in Alex's kind of camp here in terms of if you're going to go down that road, make sure you know how to manage it, because it can be a funds leak that goes on forever.
Next. Oh, Courtney, you wanted to come in?
I was just going to comment. I was in reading through the new things. It now has something I'm not sure even Keynote has, Alex. It's called Present with Cameo that is in PowerPoint. It lets you put your image from your live camera into PowerPoint slides so that you can pop up and do a presentation with your image. I don't know if Keynote does that.
That's been in Keynote for, I think,
of course,
years.
It's been in there for 20 years.
3 years, yeah. The live video inside of Keynote has been around. I don't use it because we found a lot of our research didn't show that having a live video inserted as a picture-in-picture really increased people's the viewability of the slide as much as cutting back and forth. So we just don't use it that much, but it is useful for people who think that that's important. But it happened. They dropped it into Keynote, I think, in 2021.
Well, not that long. So, but now it has it in PowerPoint.
All right. Next question, Bill.
Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand's up next. Behringer has just announced the Grind. Thoughts? And he's got a link there to the product.
Yeah, I believe this is a new synthesizer. Alex, have you had a chance to look at this thing?
I only looked at it in passing. I mean, this looks like an upgrade from the Crave. So the Crave is a all analog synthesizer. The Grind is a hybrid, which is bringing in some digital sources as well as all the analog processing. So if you like the Crave and you really wish you could add more sounds, then the Grind looks like it might be a good thing for you. I think it's probably in that sub $200 synth range, and it looks interesting. If that's if you're looking for that, then it looks like an upgrade from the Crave.
I'm not sold on the name.
No, I think it's a horrible name. I think that wasn't picked well.
Go ahead, Courtney.
It looks like a lot of the others. It has a sequencer but it has, of course, this jack field up here, which is what makes it a semi modular. Although I think everything is normal if you're not using the jack field up there to route stuff. But it does has 16 voice polyphony, so it's not like just your regular analog synth. So you have up to 16 voices you can play through MIDI. So you can use it for that as well.
Next question.
Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas, up next. The Solidcom C1 Pro roaming hub supports communication for up to 20 headsets and 6 groups with a range of about 1,640 feet. What's the cost and effectiveness compared to other similar solutions?
Mickey.
Yeah, Hollyland has been putting out quite interesting products in the past couple of years in the wireless intercom space. This is the C1 Pro that Paul has mentioned. They can operate as just a standalone headset. So one of the headsets being a hub headset or a master headset. I don't know what terminology they use, but you can also add a hub to it. Now with this, with either the master headset or this basic hub, you can have up to I believe it was 8 headsets connected to each other but they recently released this higher end roaming, what they call the roaming hub, which allows you to connect up to 20 headsets to it. It's interesting. I haven't had I haven't experienced working with the C1 line. The only wireless intercom from Hollyland I've tried is the M1 or I think the M1, which is I think one of their higher end ones. It served its purpose. It's not very configurable compared to, say, Romeo or Free Speak or Bolero from Riedel. You are limited to just 2 channels, so you can't configure each belt pack or each headset individually in terms of what button does what. But if you're in a pinch, I know people have had a fairly decent experience with them. They use DECT for their wireless RF system, so there is frequency hopping that happens there with any DECT system, but seems like overall a good bang for the buck.
Alex?
Yeah, it's a good value. I will say they talk about it on their site of line of sight. Line of sight is super important with Hollyland. So if you're in a small convention area, or a room, the Hollyland's going to work fine. Let's say you're in a 60 by 60 room or an 80 by 80 room, and you need a couple camera operators and that type of thing. You're probably going to do okay with the Hollyland. You just need to know that it really is line of sight and it drops out really fast. So we found walking out of the room and going around a corner like immediately had it fall out. And we're used to a little bit more range with the Free Speak and Bolero systems. So it's not going to compare to the ones that are much more expensive, but for a lot of simple things, whether it's education, corporate, those types of things, it's pretty useful. Just remember that DECT sits on the same, that's the same frequencies that you often have with things like the Microflex from Shure. So both of those, we have the same problem with Free Speak. You got to be careful of having both of them in the same room or someone nearby with those on the same frequencies. You may have to, further compress it. So just know that might be a challenge as well.
Mickey?
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that when you have RF systems wherein, like say with the headsets or even with the basic hubs from the cheaper brands, when you get into a situation where you are not able to choose the appropriate antennas, the actual antennas that you're using, and also place antennas at a more ideal spot, you're really limiting yourself. Like these headsets and these hubs, they all come with like just omni-whip antennas. So they're higher end models. You can select a different antenna system, but with the lower end stuff, you're stuck with what's built in.
Next question.
Next one comes to us from Chuck Hodges in Tuolumne, California. What NAS will sync properly to our tape backup into cloud services and off-site systems with minimal overview and overhead? Is there one that's included with the cost of cloud backup and restore systems? And they process over 25 terabytes each day to these systems with Fuji.
Mickey?
Yeah, I think this question was asked exactly a week ago, and I'll just try to condense the same things I mentioned last week. I would not sync or write directly to tape from a NAS. I want the media to be locked before I even attempt to talk to a tape drive. In terms of free or included cloud storage, I will not use anything I'm not paying for in terms of anything critical. I want to be able to call someone and yell at someone if something goes wrong. So I want anything critical to be paid. I won't use anything free. And also, what NAS systems, pretty much all modern NAS OSs have functionality to be able to sync to a cloud or an offsite system. Be that something a proprietary solution from the likes of Synology with their own sync packages, or even things like rsync and SyncThings.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, absolutely. There's you can buy your own. You can also build your own and use something like TrueNAS to do something like that. You get a little bit more freedom to do some things, backing up to tape, backing up to the cloud. You always want to have that 7 backup system going, so if anything does fail, then you can restore from a previous backup and get that data back out. 25 terabytes, that's a lot, but is it always 25 terabytes, or is it 1 terabyte change here, 1 terabyte change there?
Next question.
Mariella Sushamera in Webelow. What microphones and headsets were they using at the vice presidential debate last night on stage and for the mini studios and field reporters at the debate pre and after the show? Many looked the same but didn't sound the same. So how did they do that?
Courtney, start us off.
Looked the same but didn't sound the same. I didn't see the spin room thing on CBS. Did sponsor it, and so of course during the debate they weren't using headsets. They were using lavalier microphones and sitting in the debate for the hosts of it, the moderators. I have seen them use these. Since CBS has used these Sennheiser HD27s during the conventions, maybe this is the same headset that you saw that they were using. It's a professional broadcast headset. That I did see them using during the convention. So if you saw them in the spin room and this coming out of the East Coast, that may have been the headset they were using. I'm not sure about the differences in how they sounded different.
Alex?
Yeah, a lot of the labs, at least in CBS's, and I can't, it's hard to tell because it looks like CBS did the entire production at 720p. So it's really hard to get the resolution that you'd want to have that. But we skipped around trying to find a 1080p signal to look at the stuff and couldn't find it live when we were trying to watch it. So, and CBS has been known to do that in the past. But it looked like they could be DPA 4080s. And those are, the ones that are in their round tables, which would be reasonably good labs for what they were using there. I don't know what the goosenecks for the actual debate. I'm not sure. They look like they could be Sures, but I'm not 100% sure. They're definitely not the Neumanns, which I really like for goosenecks. But anyway, and those would be the ones that I would have used for that. So anyway, but I think that those are the only ones that I identified. As far as why they sound different, every audio engineer is going to have their opinion about what that, how to, just because they have the same mics. That's the beginning of that process, but how it's compressed, how it's EQ'd, how it's done, all those things are going to affect how it looks, what kind of noise reduction they might use. All of those things affect that.
Next question.
Gabriela Estacia Mastera in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. What is a cheap option to bring NDI and NDI HX signals from several iPhones into different HDMI inputs of an ATEM mini switcher? Maybe spare laptops using these, one per phone, each running NDI suite connected to ATEM's HDMI or other gear and devices?
Mickey?
Yeah, for something like this, I would go to old reliable Magewell Pro converts to convert NDI to HDMI. Though I would ask if you think this is the right solution for this, you're going from a phone to a switcher with HDMI inputs. I would just use something like the Blackmagic camera app, output HDMI, send HDMI, or convert that to SDI going to the switcher, instead of going through the whole IP solution that adds expense and makes the system a bit more complex and convoluted.
Alex?
Yeah, if you can wire it, I agree with Mickey that I would just do it that way. I would connect it there. What I use to get signals into my ATEM, and I've done it with up to 3. If I want wireless, is I just do Apple Share. I mean, I do my share to an Apple TV. So instead of having a whole computer, I just have Apple TVs. You can identify each Apple TV. Just call it camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, and you share the phone. And through something like a Blackmagic camera, it'll share full raster. So there is no interface or anything else. And so that I find that to be a better solution if you're trying to do wireless, and it's relatively stable in a very short throw. I mean, obviously it's not going to go very far, but neither would your wires. I mean, you could make the wires go a long way if you're trying to put it up somewhere or put it around. So it just depends on what you're trying to get done.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, so what I would, another option would be to spin up a computer, run OBS, use NDI into the computer through OBS, HDMI out into your ATEM. It's not the best way, and there's going to be a little bit more latency that's going to be involved in that, but that might be the more inexpensive way than getting the Magewells. Other than that, if you're running NDI, ATEM was never really, I don't think they'll ever plan to do anything with NDI, so it's probably a good idea to figure out how you can change things up so you can use the cameras with the switcher that you've got.
Mickey.
Yeah, I just want to add as well that with if you're running all these multiple sources of NDI HX into isolated NDI decoders, you will have slight variances in latency there. So it might not be a big deal for what you're doing. 1 or 2 frames might not be a big deal, but if sync is important to you, then I just go baseband.
Next question.
Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas, up next. Vegas Creative Software has announced Vegas Pro 22, the newest version of its NLE with AI-enhanced features. How does it stack up against the competitors like Resolve, Final Cut, and so forth?
I didn't know Vegas was still a thing. Alex?
That was my thing. I was like, every time Vegas releases something new, I'm like, they're still around? What happens a lot of times is that you have there's a large enough user base that's ready to upgrade that you can keep the team going. So I think that if people are using Vegas, then there's enough people that want to use it that, this is the way that they do it. And I hear that it's very fast to do a lot of things that you're trying to do. But I literally don't know anybody that uses it. So I don't know. I can't really compare it for you, but I don't know anybody who uses the software. So I think that it is, but I think it has its verticals, and there's enough of them that keep the team paid. But I wouldn't learn it as a new product at this point.
Go ahead, Bill.
So for me, I'd still do enough work that's proprietary. I do not want AI touching my NLE, particularly if it has access both directions. I understand there are a lot of people who would love to have the basic AI functionality of things like checking and making sure that a lot of things are right. Great. For me, it's just a no-go. I've been very enheartened by Apple's approach to this, doing the walled garden AI that you opt into rather than something that's persistently attached, and I'm hoping that they pulled that off as well as they have other things so that I can be sure that my data that I'm working on in the videos for clients sometimes who have me under NDA can't leak out.
Courtney?
Yeah, I looked at Vegas for years has been used by a lot of vloggers. They came into being around that time that video blogging took off. So a lot of YouTubers use it for quick and dirty editing of their vlogs and things. And they've just added a whole bunch of stuff to Vegas. With AI, of course, they've got these 3 enhancement tools: dehaze, which is interesting. I haven't seen that before in a single editing package. AI sharpen and AI smoothen. Smoothen? Is that really a word? That lets you smooth out facial imperfections without affecting the detail of the rest of the image. It also has some tracking for generating vertical 9:16 images and tracking people. If you shot 16:9 and you want to release 9:16, it'll track the subject and keep them in the center of the frame when you're trying to crop it for 9:16. Things like that. It's integrated color correction into the same package without having to change packages. It's all built into one these days. So it looks interesting. I'm not sure what the pricing is and whether they've gone to a subscription model. It used to always be a single purchase, on a single machine type of model for selling it. I'm not sure if they've stuck with that. And it is for Windows 10 and 11. That's probably why nobody on this panel has ever tried.
Jeffrey.
So, as Courtney said, I was one of those people, mostly because of the fact that Vegas is actually on the other side of town, and I could always go and talk to them directly. I like the updates that they have. It is a Windows-only product, and I like the updates that they've done since the last time that I've used Vegas, and they're definitely competing, but you're really competing with like a DaVinci Resolve that has it for free. There are two models. There is a subscription model for like $10 a month, but there's also a purchase out at $200. So you have options if you decide to do a dedicated machine, and of course, if you don't want to go in the Adobe route and you don't want to go to the DaVinci route, this is just another option.
Next question.
Marielle Zuchamero, we below again. Who had the best quality for their live reporting and studio coverage of the debates last night?
Alex?
I thought the CBS's was pretty. It was there. It was kind of home field for them. I think that they probably had the best set. I can't say that as far as coverage goes, I didn't watch very much of the analysis of it. I didn't watch much of I did watch some of the debate, mostly just to see what they did technically and remember that red is a really bad color for compressed footage. Like it just looks so bad online. So because I don't have any way to watch it other than YouTube TV, and red is it's a good example of why you shouldn't put red in your logo these days, because man, does it look bad. But I watched a little bit of the debate. I got kind of a sense of it, of what it looked like, and then I skipped through it based on this question, skipped through some of them, and I think that CBS probably had the best set. As far as the quality of their actual analysis, I don't have any opinion.
Next question.
Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand. Up next, Teenage Engineering releases a lot of interesting stuff. Which of these is for you or me? Yes, they look like they are old school calculators. That's kind of the Teenage Engineering aesthetic. They've got a link there to see what they're discussing.
Jesse?
They're not old school calculators. They're beautiful old school calculators. And I encourage everybody to go to teenage.engineering once a day and just remember the truth that if something can be beautiful, it should be beautiful. And that mandate comes from us.
Courtney?
Yeah, I think they went to Casio and they found a warehouse full of these old cases, and they decided, hey, let's put some synths and things in there. That would be a good idea. We wouldn't have to invest all that money in creating molds and making cases. I'm not sure how well they work, but it is interesting throwback to the old world of the desktop calculator.
Next question.
Francis Fry in Cambridge, Massachusetts. What's the longest distance I can have between an OWC ThunderBlade and an M3 Max MacBook Pro without sacrificing data transfer speed?
Alex?
And when you're saying that, this is capable theoretically of 40 gigs a second. To get that speed in a passive cable, I believe it's about 1.5 feet. So it's a pretty short run to get that 40 gigs. It'll drop to 20 gigs after you go over that. And I think that if you use an active optical cable, I believe it's about 6 feet. So it's somewhere in that range, but you can't run it very far to get that the full speed that is designed there.
Mickey?
Yeah, if you need to connect the Mac directly to the drive, to the ThunderBlade, you would need to use a copper cable because you need to have a means to power the drive itself. The longest one you would be able to find is 3 meters. Is the Apple Thunderbolt one. I have a couple of them. They work fine. They're overpriced because, hey, Apple. But this is the longest you can find. If you want to go even further, companies like Corning offer optical cables that go up to 50 meters. You would have to add a power device at the end, so something like a Thunderbolt dock. So you'd be able to connect the Thunderbolt dock 50 meters away and then daisy chain the drive off of that, just so that you can get the power to run the drive itself.
Alex?
And Mickey, do you know if those longer ones do the full 40 gig per second? I think that they dropped to 20 when on the longer runs, which is still fast.
The Thunderbolt 3 ones should run at full 40 gigabits. I don't know if there are any Thunderbolt 4 rated ones yet, but I don't think there would be a physical difference in the cabling, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding too is that the Apple rated ones are going to perform based on the specs. So if it says 40, that's what you should get based on that cable length. Next question.
Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. I'm taking a plunge and experimenting with the beta of Companion Cloud. Has anyone else used this?
Alex?
I think a lot of folks have figured out other ways of doing that communication. So this is more of a turnkey for folks who have kind of hacked through this process. And I think a lot of folks in our community are way past this. So I think that's the challenge. Is I don't think people have used it because they found other ways to manage that. But it does look like, I mean, it'll be important as it builds up, but man, would I be careful. Like, this is your control surface going to things, and I probably would I think experimenting with it is the perfect thing to do. Using it in production, I'd probably give it some time.
Next question.
Next one comes to us from Robert White in Jacksonville, Florida. I found a lightly used Behringer X32 Compact for $700 US. Is this a good deal, or should I steer clear and buy new instead?
Jeffrey.
I always say buy new, especially if that's going to be your cornerstone for making the most amount of money for you. $700 does seem to be a little bit low. My question is, what version of this Behringer X32 is it? It's been out. The X32 has been out since 2012, so there's many different variations. If it's a newer model, then I do have to ask myself the question, what's wrong with it? Because once again, $700 is fairly low for a newer version of the X32.
Courtney?
I think new they're around $1,200. So, and you know, something like this X32, it has all the little mixers and all the little pots and buttons, and there's a whole lot of stuff that can go wrong there. There's slots where drinks can be spilled into the surface of this. I'd be very cautious about getting one used unless it's been factory refurbished. A factory refurb I'd go for if it were that price, but I'd stay away from a third-party used one. Like was said, you don't know what vintage it is and what it's been through, because, you know, people use these in rock and roll nightclubs and things like that where they're, you know, exposed to a lot of elements.
Mickey?
Yeah, a brand new X32 Compact looks like it's going for $1,500 US in Sweetwater. I wouldn't buy it sight unseen. I would test it first before purchasing, and I would prepare myself for replacing at least half of the faders there. The faders are on the X32s are usually the first to go. They're, you know, not the best quality faders. They don't last very long. So a lot of them get sticky, or their encoders don't read the positions very accurately anymore. So be prepared to replace a good number of those faders. So budget for that if you're looking at seriously purchasing this, and test it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with Courtney too. A factory refurb or buying it from some kind of dealer where, you know, even on a used product, many of them will give you some kind of warranty. So at least you get some sort of peace of mind that they've actually tested that piece of gear that they took in. A lot of companies take that kind of stuff in on trade, and you get some kind of warranty. So that's always a good thing. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael's up next. There have been discussions of Behringer releasing a compact and rack version of the Wing console. For those of you that use the X32, do you have any plans to upgrade?
Alex, are you upgrading?
No. So anyway, I think that the thing is that for most of us that are using X32s, these are solving a problem. They are not they don't have the best of anything. I mean, they are useful in the way that we have them. I have a lot of X32 racks, and they are good for the services that they are put together. A very cost effective way to do a lot of things, to route things and so on and so forth. It's not the kind of thing you go, oh, I'm going to take this one out and put another one in. When you upgrade from here, you usually upgrade to a Yamaha or or something else. The X32 is a very I believe it's a very serviceable mixer, but it's not something that if it's doing the job that I gave it, which is usually a relatively basic job, I'm fine with it continuing to do that thing.
Yeah, I think that's a very pragmatic approach. I mean, for me, I don't have an X32, but if I was upgrading, I would absolutely upgrade only if there were multiple things that I'd be looking at, like the preamp quality, the fader quality, high quality Alps faders that last a lot longer, higher end analog to digital converters, all those kind of things that equate to better sound quality, more processing power if I can run more plugins, that kind of stuff. Those things matter. So it would have to be more than just one little thing to make that really worth upgrading. Next question.
Ike Potter comes up next from Hanover, Germany. Do you know that after installation of the new Insta360 Link controller software version 2.01, you can control Insta360 Link movement by your mobile phone? No need to buy the new Insta360 Link 2 cam for that. Now you know, he notes.
Alex.
That's great. So we'll have to test it. I'm glad that I pointed that out. We'll have to run the new installer and see how it works. I guess my question is do you need to have the controller software opened after you've done it, or is it a firmware update that allows the camera to do that? So that'll be something for us to see.
Courtney?
I might point out there's a major difference between the Link 1 and the Link 2. The Link 2 is only a 2-axis gimbal, where the Link 1 was a 3-axis gimbal, so it would do roll as well. The new one is just pan and tilt, no roll.
Which is why the new one's less expensive, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Next question.
Andre Dole in Berlin. Anyone experience issues with Blackmagic desktop video app after upgrading from 12.9 to 14.x? The deck link in Sonnet enclosure isn't recognized anymore in use with Windows 11, vMix, laptop, and Thunderbolt 3.
Alex.
I don't know about the Windows side. On the Mac side, we're definitely having problems. So the Sonnet is, we upgraded, and the Sonnet boxes are the Blackmagic cards on the Sonnet boxes have been hit and miss. It's taken us a couple times to restart, a couple times to look for it. I've never had this problem before, but we had it last week. It had the exact problem that you're dealing with. So it did come back up eventually, but I think we got very close to going to something else. We have backups, but there is something going on with the desktop and the Sonnet box. I don't know whether the Sonnet boxes or the cards, but we are having trouble seeing the cards, both in a variety of situations. So I wouldn't do any upgrades right now.
Next question.
Francis Fry, Cambridge, Massachusetts. I want to make videos available to clients for a limited time. No downloading or copying. Which platform do you recommend? Ideally, I can vary how long people can access the video without having to make duplicate copies of it.
Alex?
You may be able to do something like that with Vimeo. Vimeo has a lot of services that make different files available to folks, and so Vimeo might be a solution for you to do that. Another thing to look at, and it just depends on how you want to present it to everyone, but you can go into a presentation mode inside of Frame.io and make those things available to folks to look at as well. And what's interesting about it is you can have one video that you uploaded, and you can create multiple share links. Each one of those share links can have a different set of rules. So they're all going back to the same video, but they're either allowed to download or not download, or and then you can also create a look and feel. There are some tools inside of Frame.io, especially in the new one, to customize how that viewer experience works. It's not going to look like you were a designer and put it together, but if you're trying to have some people look at those things and give them different sets of rules, you may find that Frame.io is a good solution for that.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, 100% support what Alex said. I would go in the same directions. I will say, just if you're doing this to just add friction so that the casual viewer can't grab your material, perfect solution and perfect way to look at it. Nothing will ever stop somebody who's technically competent from grabbing your content. So just always remember that. Anybody on one of our video panels here will immediately know how to grab your video and take it. So if it's truly something you don't want to get out in the world, there's really no way to prevent that. If you publish it, someone can snag it. Just be aware of that.
Courtney?
One thing you might want to try is Google Drive. It's free to try, so it doesn't cost you anything. You can put a file up on your Google Drive, right-click on it, and then click on Share, and then you can determine who's going to share it and whether they have editorial rights, whether they have download rights, whether they can only open it and play it, and you just send the personal link to it. So each individual then would have their own link to the file, which you could control. So that might be a way to manage access to a video file and let people stream it, but not download.
Next question.
Mariella Zusha-Mira from Webelow back. The QR code for the live fact-checking page from the networks for the debate last night didn't work for many or became confusing. What happened to cause this, and what would make it better in the future? Thanks.
Jeffrey.
I didn't read anything about the QR code not working this morning, and I just double-checked on that. But there's a lot of different factors that are involved. First of all, you didn't get the QR code if you were on one of the simulcast stations, not the primary, which was CBS at the point. So the QR code wouldn't have shown up. So they talk about it, and then you don't see anything. For a lot of people, what they do is they're way across on the other end of the room. They see this QR code. They bring up their phone. They try to zoom in on the QR code. Doesn't work too well. The resolution on their TV is causing some of the issues. If they're using over-the-air TV, there could be some sort of disruption that's blurring or distorting the QR code, so it doesn't really show all the factors that they would need to find the page. And then there's still a lot of people that just don't know how to use the phone to QR code conversion. They get confused on it, so they just stop. They don't use it at all. So I hope that this is the point where the QR codes jump the shark.
Alex?
I actually didn't see the QR code. I guess it didn't show up on the YouTube live stream of what this looked like. So I would have definitely jumped on and tried to make it work, because I build a lot of QR codes. I'm not going to try to fact check them. Trying to fact check politicians is like trying to make sure that there isn't any sugar in cookies. So I think that it is not, why would you bother? Nothing that they're saying is true. So anyway, I don't know why they bothered with this process, but it was a cute thing to do. But the QR code itself is really tricky, especially at this scale. So QR codes, the problem most likely, as far as some of the confusion and most likely some of the issues, were related to the fact that if you have millions of people trying to use a QR code, it really will, it's an enormous amount of data on the back end, and it would be almost useless. So in addition to the fact that it's useless to try to fact check politicians, it's also useless to try to deal with that much data in real time. So both of those things were probably not a particularly good idea.
Next question.
Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand comes up next. I must have missed this one. Thoughts on this microphone from Teenage Engineering? And it looks like he's speaking about the CM15.
Courtney.
Those pesky kids over at Teenage Engineering. They've done it again with this CM15. It looks like it's a large diaphragm condenser, so it looks like it has if you kind of look closely here, you can see that there's a capsule suspended by springs maybe inside there, elastic inside there, so it's shock mounted inside the inside. I'm not sure how much it costs. Rarity in the field, large diaphragm condenser. Features ESS Saber to analog digital converter. So I guess it's a USB microphone because it's got an A to D converter built into it for high fidelity sound. You kids get off of my lawn, I tell you. Not sure how much it costs. Haven't gotten to that.
Jesse.
I could just convince every YouTuber with the little lavalier or the giant square with the logo on it to use something this gorgeous. Oh, if only.
No, I think I saw a video a couple months back of Marquez Brownlee. I think he was using that mic, and he was actually holding it and talking into the mic like this for the whole video, which I found interesting. It actually sounded really good, but I don't know how much that costs. Usually Teenage Engineering stuff is not cheap, but you do get what you pay for sure. Next question.
Next one comes to us from Tlaloc Lopez Waterman in Boston, Massachusetts. It seems like core audio has been less than stable over the last 4 to 5 macOS iterations. Is there a reason for this, and has Apple been working on it?
Well, I'm sure it's not intentional. Alex, what do you think?
I was surprised that Mickey didn't raise his hand, because Mickey's such a big fan of core audio on the Apple products. I think he was going to try to defend Apple here, jump on. See, I'm trying to bait Mickey here to give us his true opinion, but I can't get him to raise his hand. We've had a lot of trouble with it. There's a lot of changes going on as Apple restructures it. It's pretty much happened since the M1s were released. That seems to be where things, where they've restructured things specifically for the ARM processors. It appears that has made it much less stable than it was before, probably because the technology hadn't changed in a decade. Now it's changing quickly as they figure that out. So I think that that's the challenge. I mean, we've been able to work through it, but it's definitely much less stable now than it was before the M1s were released.
Mickey.
Yeah, certainly the core audio has been painful to work with over the past couple of years. I'm lucky a lot of my our needs in terms of audio interfacing doesn't require the use of core audio, since our software talks directly to our hardware, no, without having to go through Apple's core audio system. I have hunches in terms of why. Like, I wonder if core audio being delegated to just the efficiency cores, as opposed to just using general purpose cores or performance cores, has something to do with it, and why it tends to crash a lot. But it would be nice if Apple fixes their software. They seriously need a Snow Leopard where they just fix the OS.
Next question.
Anawahayi Black Bear Marshall in the Wahi Nation. Alex, it feels my question was missed, but I was saying that we couldn't get the live show in any way at the start. No audio, no YouTube. Was it uploaded later? This has happened with the Daily Show and more than once. Which tech fixes need to happen? And I think he's talking about our broadcast here.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I think that there was a sorting error in some of the shelves that I think we fixed last week. But I think that just where the shelves didn't really accurately show you where the live was, but I think that has been sorted out. But I don't know for sure. You would need to be, if you were in Mukana asking questions about it live, then we would probably de-exit live. But if you're outside of that, we won't know. We didn't see any comments inside of Mukana itself of people saying they couldn't see it. So we respond to that in real time. The other parts we don't know if you're not there. So that might be something you might want to think about. You can go to officehours.global/join, and then you'll get links to Discord and Mukana and other things like that.
Next question.
Craig Kadoki in Toronto. Sennheiser announces the new MD421 Kompakt. Thoughts? And yes, they changed the clip. As someone who has an ancient 421U up there in blonde with the original clip, I'm fascinated by this.
That's about time. Mickey.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. It's been a long run for the good old 421, and it's nice that they've released a more compact version. The clip, I know many people aren't a fan of it, but it hasn't caused me problems. It's just like, oh, that's a 421 clip. Okay, done. But I guess if people are happy with the new clip, then yay.
Yeah, and my question is, does it sound exactly the same as the full-size one? I'm always cautiously optimistic about that when they make major design changes. I, too, have never had a problem with the clip, but I know a lot of people that do have problems with it. Mostly of that thing breaking because it's kind of a soft plastic. So yeah, it remains to be seen. I love the size. I think the mount is great. I like that you can rim mount them now, and they're obviously recognizing how a lot of people tend to use this mic, which is mainly on drums because they make a fantastic tom mic. So that's going to be great, and being able to just mount it right on the rim is going to eliminate a lot of space that takes up by full boom stands as well. Bill.
Now, if you'd kept your 421 in the original box with the foam, it really protected the quick clip very nicely. The problem was, in the case of two of my ancient 421s that I've been using since I started my career, the foam in those cases outgassed and disintegrated into nothingness and left foam rash all over everything I ever had those mics near. So you just have to understand. You have to be careful with them, and I think Alexander hit the nail on the head. For drummers and people like that who put them in harsh environments, yeah, you can break clips reasonably easily.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, and being a drummer and having clips similar to this, I don't think I've ever had the Sennheiser 421s, but I've gone into situations where they've been put on my drums. The clips, yeah, definitely break. Make sure you have backups available just in case, and because otherwise you're going to be using gaff tape to hold it onto the drum, and that's not always a good thing.
Mickey.
Yeah, I just want to add, just because the 421 isn't that popular, at least within this community. Yesterday, Tlaloc was on the show. He was using a 421 for speech. It's a very versatile microphone, as mentioned by the other panelists. Great on drums, great on certain sound effects. I use a 421 for like impact sound effects, or even I've used them on car effects, on gun sound effects. Such a good microphone.
Bill?
Yeah, I actually recorded a rocket car once. That sound field was so loud that I literally was frightened that I was going to destroy whatever mic I put anywhere near it. I was about 20 feet away, and I still had to use, I think, 35 dB of pad to get that noise level down to where I could record a signal, and it came through it with flying colors.
Yeah, I'm glad we brought up the versatility of that. I actually, when I went to broadcast school, a lot of the booths actually had that mic, so I remember that being a very good microphone for just spoken word stuff. Very interesting design. I'll have to get my hands on one and test it out. Next question.
Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand is back again. In the Apple iPhone event, Apple announced that the Voice Memos app will now have layers. So you record something, and now you can go back to it and add another hum track or acoustic guitar and so forth. Given its audio night, anyone using this?
Jesse?
Haven't used it. This will be a tremendous boon for composers who are stuck on an 8-hour flight after watching a work print and getting full of inspiration. I can see this being amazingly useful for the musicians I work with. The icing on this cake would be if you can export ISOs afterwards, so you can listen to them all mixed in your headphones, but when you move it over to the computer, you've got all your tracks still individuals.
Alex?
Yeah, I tried to find it. I couldn't find it. So whenever it's released, it'll be take a the iPad that is pretty powerful if you're looking for something. And Logic also comes on the iPad. So those are other more powerful solutions if you really want to do something seriously.
Bill?
This reminds me, my old friend Michael Cioni used to take the voiceover module in Final Cut and do multi-track music. He's a multi-instrumentalist as well as being that. And he did a show once that I saw where he literally built like he was working on a multi-track recorder in a studio, something out of that. All I'm saying is that you investigate the capabilities of your software, both Mac, PC, Sci, and everything else, but keep your mind open about, can I use this tool that was designed for task A and really it'll leverage into task B and be very useful for me? I always find that fascinating when I discover something like that.
Alex?
And I just want to correct myself also, is that GarageBand is also available on the iPhone. I've only used it a couple times that way, so I hadn't thought of it that way, but I was like, wait, I think it's actually available. So, if you're trying to do a couple of little layers, Voice Memos might be simpler, but know that you can do a fair amount of production just on the iPhone itself with GarageBand, which is free.
Next question.
Andy Kokendorfer in Viera, Florida. What's the name of the editor plugin that resyncs audio and video with drift? Thanks.
Courtney?
Well, I guess you're talking about, there used to be this one, and it's still around, called Pluralize. It's now owned or bought up by part of Red Giant. You can still get it. It syncs multiple cameras using the audio waveforms from guide tracks recorded in the individual cameras. So each of your videos, if you have a guide track, if you opened up the microphone on that camcorder, let's say, to record a guide track, it will synchronize it with your production audio track, which was recorded hopefully on a high-quality audio recorder. And it will synchronize all of your cameras in a timeline with that using the waveforms of the audios. Maybe that's what you're talking about.
Mickey?
Yeah, if the actual recording drifts, that would be an issue of originating from the recording device itself, depending on what is drifting, either the audio recorder or the camera. That's why having genlock and word clock locking is very important. In terms of fixing the drift, first determine which track or tracks are the accurate ones in terms of time. Then either do, if the erroneous one is the audio, do sample rate conversion or elastic time stretching to bring it into the proper time, or if it's video, do time remapping on the video so that it matches the real one, the accurate one. Something like Pluralize would just take the clips and align them, but it won't necessarily deal with media or material that is drifting in terms of time or sync.
Next question.
Next one comes from Francis Fry in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I no longer need my Monoprice Blackbird Pro 12U quiet rack. I'd like to give it away in exchange for a removal from the second floor of my home. It weighs 150 pounds. Ideas?
Alex.
Ping me. I'll see what the cost would be to have someone come pick it up. I mean, it's a pretty valuable rack there, but someone else in Boston may be able to be more ready for it. But even with the shipping, it might be worth it. I desperately need one of those in my office.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but yeah, going to Cambridge is not a possibility. Unfortunately, you can't do anything like Goodwill or St. Vincent's or anything like that if you wanted to give it to charity, because a lot of the times that they will not pick things up because of weight, because of size, and because of condition. And this might hit the point of that. Getting it down the stairs actually isn't that difficult. You take a moving rug, you flip it upside down, and you just let the stairs do the momentum. You just have to be able to be ready to catch it on the way down. Other than that, I would suggest checking with like a marketplace, and if you do that, make sure that you've got a trusted buyer, not somebody that's going to try and take more than just the Monoprice rack there.
Mickey.
I don't know if he's watching, but Todd Reynolds is based in Massachusetts, and I know Todd has an ever-evolving home studio that not necessarily has the best in terms of isolation of his equipment racks. So, Todd, if you're willing to do it looks like a 2.5 or 2.5 or 3 hour drive, go on a road trip.
Courtney.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you've got a phone that can record 120 frames per second, set it up on a small tripod outside, and if you have a window in that room, push it out the window and record it hitting the concrete at 120 frames per second. Post that video on YouTube.
Use an MD46 to record the effects.
Yeah. and record it and monetize it, and you might get back 4 times what it's worth. All you have to do is sweep up the pieces.
Bill.
My recipe for this would be beer in Craigslist. Offer somebody on Craigslist it for free, have a cold beer waiting for them. 150 pounds isn't that much for a healthy college student to haul down the stairs, so don't overthink this.
Next question.
Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas. What reality TV show has the best video, audio, best editing, best production values?
Jesse.
I don't know if it counts because it's so far out there, but I would go straight to Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal for all of those things.
Next question.
We have .ep in Lake Hamilton, Arkansas coming up. What's the optimal setup for a yoga, Nia, or Tai Chi class on Zoom using a Sony ZV-E10 with lighting, lens, microphone, and so forth? The room is about 10 by 12.
Mickey.
And I'm going to try to go as quick as I can. I've done quite a few fitness and also yoga-related shows. Always go with a headset mic. My go-to would be the DPA-4066, and if the director or producer is being picky and wants something a little more small, a little more inconspicuous, check out the 6066. I like the sound of the 4066 more, but this is still has a smaller capsule. Lectrosonics recently released a revised version of their SSM. This is the DSSM, which is now fully digital and also is it's not waterproof, but they say water resistant, IP57 rated. I would still put this in some protection, like a unlubricated condom is commonly used for this. Wrap the transmitter, and when you mount the transmitter, place it upside down so that when sweat drips down, it doesn't go directly into the connector of the transmitter because the transmitter is flipped upside down. On top of that, get a couple waist straps. I'm a big fan of Orsa straps. have, I don't know, 120, 140 of these of various sizes and colors. You can get waist straps, or you can even get chest straps. You can get say if you get a chest strap, you can mount the mic on the strap itself, and also get one of their pouches and mount the Orsa pouch at the back, so that it's in many fitness related shows, it's quite tight clothing, so you may have some trouble hiding the transmitter pack. So straps like these and little pouches like these help a lot.
Right.
Speaking in terms of camera, just you want the variety of positions for camera, not just one camera.
All right, stick around. We have a wonderful second hour on our voiceover discussion. We have a wonderful panel. We'll be right back.